Hi, and welcome back to Wounded on Sixes. Today we're going to be reviewing the preview of the upcoming Death Guard Codex that was just released by GW. The Death Guard Codex does go for pre-release this Saturday, and they did preview some of the rules. So I'm going to go over some of those rules previews and let you know what I think about them. There's been a few changes that have been previewed. We don't know everything. We don't know all of the detachments yet, but we do have a couple of rules previews. So I wanted to go over that real quick with you. So first off, we have the Army rule. Now, not much of the Army rule has changed except for the fact that there is they've now combined the extra contagions from the Plague Company detachment and made it fully part of the Army rule. So we still have the contagion ranges that go up 3 inches every round to round 3. But then on top of that, no matter what detachment you're going to pick, you're also going to get a choice of one of the 3 different abilities. So that's either worsen the save characteristic, worsen the leadership and objective control, or subtract 1 from the hit roll. Now, this one has definitely been a change because this used to be subtract 1 or from the weapon skill and ballistic skill. It's now been changed to hit roll. So this is a slight downgrade because you're not going to be able to double up those -1 to hits like you could a -1 to ballistic and weapon and then a -1 to hit. For instance, something like Typhus that makes you -1 to hit in melee. If you did take the -1 to hit contagion ability, it would not stack like it used to with the -1 weapon skill. So you're not going to have access to that anymore. It's just going to be -1 to hit. Definitely a small downgrade, but I think most people take the worsen the save characteristic by 1, essentially giving all their weapons an extra AP because you're minusing the save characteristic. That seems to be the one that most people take, although I would argue that it is very situational. Yes, most armies that you play, you're going to want to take the worsen the save characteristic by 1. However, there's certain armies where that extra AP doesn't really help you because they're just sitting on invols. Things like Eldar, Admech, even demons. I mean, a lot of these things have, very low armor saves and then a 4-up invul. So at that point, you probably just want a -1 to hit rather than -1 to the save characteristic. I don't think I've ever taken the Scab or a Soul Rot. I'm sure there's people out there that have, but not something that I normally take. Now, there is this little section here, Pact of Decay, when mustering your army, unless specifically stated otherwise. You cannot select Plague Legions as your army faction. Essentially, what this is, and it's not super clear, but from what I've gathered from Reddit, this is similar to what we saw with the Emperor's Children, where essentially you're not going to be able to take demon units in a Death Guard detachment that is not the Nurgle Demon detachment for Death Guard. Now, if that is true, that's definitely a downgrade, particularly for Nurglings. A lot of lists, including some of my Death Guard lists, use the Nurglings for their infiltrate ability, especially things like the Grotmus detachment, the Flyblown Host. You really want to make sure you can scout your guys up, and now you won't be able to. So if this is that true, there we will not be able to use Nurglings with a lot of our different detachments besides the demon one, which is quite unfortunate because there's a lot of lists that use demon units to supplement things that the Death Guard Codex does not have. Maybe they will change it so that one of the Death Guard units does have infiltrate. I'm not sure which one, but that is definitely a bit of a downgrade here. Although looking at this change to the army rule itself, things like Flyblown Host have gotten way better because, part of the reason why I never took Flyblown Host is that it didn't have access to the full contagion range. Now it does, so now we can bring the -1 save characteristic with our Flyblown Host. That I think is really good. Like, I think that the attachment was pretty decent, and now that you're adding this, even better. And then if they make improvements to some of the data sheets, particularly Blightlord Terminators, which I have my fingers crossed for, I think we're going to see a lot of fly-blown hosts, let alone some of the other detachments that are coming our way. So now let's skip over to some of those detachments real quick. So moving right along, we have a detachment rule preview for Mortarian's Hammer called Miasmic Bombardment. And essentially what this says is at the start of your battle round, you select enemy units that are more than 12 inches away from every model in your army on the battlefield. Until the next battle round, those enemy units are afflicted. The maximum number of units that can be selected this way depends on the battle size as shown below. So for most people playing Warhammer 40k, they're going to be using the two units at once. So essentially what this is it's basically, and that's really all the rule is. What I'm assuming is we're going to see a lot more things in the enhancements and the stratagems that are going to speak of those afflicted units that you're picking. So right off the bat, I'm not the biggest fan of this. Partially because every model from your army has to be 12 inches away, which at some point in the game just may not be true. I mean, it may not be true that you're going to be able to pick a unit that's 12 inches away, particularly past turn 3. A lot of times, turn 3, turn 4, all of your units are intermixed with your enemy's units. And I mean, the fact that all of them have to be away for 12 inches for you to even do this, to me, just doesn't sound that great. And then a lot of times, in those middle rounds, the units that are going to be more than 12 inches away are going to be units holding down a corner, holding down, the enemy's home objective, things like that. Not to say that like having abilities to touch those units is not good, but a lot of times those units are behind cover and indirect. And I think even with this affliction, if you take into consideration some indirect rules coming into effect, I don't really know like how well this is going to do. I mean, also, how much long range firepower does Death Guard have? I mean, yes, we have some tanks. Yes, we have the heavy the Plague Burst crawler, but I mean, we're not a super long range army. So I'm kind of wondering what this is going to be. I really don't like detachment rules that are just like, okay, so these two units are now afflicted, and then, all of your stratagems and enhancements will talk about that affliction. Like, I almost kind of feel like we're missing something here. Like, there should be some kind of other benefit here, but honestly, what I feel like is this is going to be kind of like the Explorer Maniple for AdMech, where it's like the entire detachment rule is based around a single point on the board that you pick, and then anytime your army interacts with that point, you can use some of your other special rules to use it. While that's cute and great game design, it's not super competitive. So I'm kind of nervous at how good this one will actually be. I could be wrong, but just thinking of the units that we have access to, like, I'm not sure this is going to do anything but maybe help the Plague Burst Crawler. Like, maybe this will be the Plague Burst Crawler detachment. I mean, I hope that they bring the Plague Burst Crawler down in points and make it a little bit more deadly, because I haven't been the biggest fan of it. But we got a couple more things here, and then like this is kind of what brought me to like, oh, the Eyes of Affliction. So Death Guard model only, ranged weapons equipped by models in the bearer's unit have the ignores cover ability while targeting the afflicted unit. So this has to go in a Death Guard unit. It only works on ranged weapons, and it will ignore cover if you're targeting the afflicted enemy unit. So let's try to think of a Death Guard character that has a long range gun that's going to be able to target our afflicted unit that had to be 12 inches away from every other unit in our army to even target it with this. Like, this to me is a bad enhancement. Like, just bad. Like, I do not like enhancements that are like predicated on another value or another data point on the board. So, a lot has to go right for this enhancement to even work. Okay, so you have to have a Death Guard model, a character model that has a good enough weapon that you're going to want to shoot it more than 12 inches away. which most of the good like weapons on characters are like flamers and stuff. They're not long range weapons, and many of those ignore cover already. So, like, I mean, I guess maybe like a plasma gun or something. Like, I'm trying to think here. What model in the range would this be good on? I'm just drawing a blank here. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you can tell me where you think this enhancement is going to be beneficial, but I just do not like enhancements that require so much setup and so many things to go right and are very dependent on your opponent moving in a certain direction and keeping. I mean, this 12 inches away, it's just problematic if you ask me. Next, we have Fonts of Filth, and this is a stratagem from that detachment. And it says, in your shooting phase, one Death Guard unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot until the end of the phase. Ranged weapons equipped by models in that unit have the assault ability. This I like a lot. I particularly like this on things like twin plague spitter plague drones. Being able to move 10, advance, and then shoot our flamers at somebody is really, really choice. I really like that. I think it's good on things like Plague Burst crawlers too. I mean, we can really drive a Plague Burst crawler up the board and have it still be efficient, or like we can drive it, advance it, get it so that it can see whatever it's targeting, and then we're not subject to the indirect rules. I think you could do a lot with this font of filth, and although I'm not the biggest fan of the detachment rule or this enhancement that they've spoiled, I really like this stratagem here. I think it's really effective, particularly like I said for those plague the drones and even the plague burst crawler. I think they're really going to enjoy that very much. So moving along to more spoilers, we have the detachment rule for the numberless hordes. So in our command phase, each of the following battle rounds, depending on the chosen battle size, we can add a number of Poxwalker units at a starting strength of 10 to our strategic reserve. So essentially what this is saying is that you're going to get a free 150 points if plague or Poxwalkers remain the same points worth of Poxwalkers per game, and they can come in rounds 2, 3, and 4. So, couple of things here. So, this doesn't specify if you can bring more than one in your strategic army reserve. It just says that they can come in 2, 3, and 4. So I'm kind of wondering if one has to come out each round. I would assume you're only allowed to bring out one, or that's the point of the rule there. But I mean, a lot of people look at this and get really excited because they're like, "Wow, I'm going to be able to bring 90 Poxwalkers." The one thing that I worry about here is that them specifying the starting strength of 10 here makes me believe that the Poxwalkers may be getting the Scutari treatment and losing their 20-man bricks and maybe going down to 10-man total, which would mean that you actually only get 60 Poxwalkers in your list and not 90, because it would be 10 for the 3 that you get and then the other 30 for the ones coming in with this rule. I would imagine that that's probably going to happen, although it kind of goes against the whole grain of, a horde of Poxwalkers in units of 10. I could be wrong. This is just my guess, but I have a feeling that the reason they wrote this rule is because they knew that they're decreasing the unit size of Poxwalkers. Could totally be wrong. That's just a guess. You let me know what you think down in the comments section. But just the fact that they're specifying that it's 10 and not saying, you could just bring a unit of Poxwalkers in kind of makes me believe like, they wrote this rule knowing that they're decreasing the number of Poxwalkers. I have no idea. Again, just a guess. You let me know what you think. In terms of this, I mean, getting free units on the board is good. I mean, don't get me wrong. The problem is Poxwalkers are not very deadly and they're very, very slow. So let's say that you do have one come in from strategic reserve in round 2. It may not even catch an enemy unit because one, it has to come in more than 9 inches away and only moves 4. Maybe you get a charge off, but 10-man units are not as good in melee as 20-mans. Like they don't survive as long. They don't usually get any kills, and you really don't feel like wasting a CP to regenerate any of them. So it may not be super useful for them to come in from a strategic reserve because they move so slow, and 10-man units are not super deadly. But I mean, in terms of like scoring, being able to bring in a fresh 10-man unit that can like do an action on the corners or behind enemy lines or something like that later in the game, like, I mean, there's a lot of utility in point scoring, but I don't think that these are like super deadly units. And me personally, I'm looking to use these guys to score secondary points later in the game rather than be like something that's going to, like, kill something off an objective or be like a deadly unit to me there. But all in all, I think that's okay. I think that if you're looking at it like you're going to use these guys to like overwhelm your opponents and stuff like that, just remember 10-man units of Poxwalkers are not super tough. So we did get a enhancement and a stratagem for this one. And first, it's going to be Noxious Blightbringer only while the bearer is leading a Poxwalker unit. Add 1 to the objective control of models in that unit. And each time a unit takes a battle shock or leadership test, add 1 to that test. So, first things off the bat, I think we want to notice is that you can basically pair Noxious Blightbringers to Poxwalkers. So that this is a big change, and this is something that I guess they did mention previously, is that you're going to be able to bring more characters into your Poxwalker units, which is really cool. I'm hoping that's, codex wide and not just for this detachment. But the Noxious Blightbringer making those Poxwalkers 2 OC, again, really good. But understand this, even this part makes me believe that they're going to lower Poxwalkers down to units of 10 instead of units of 20, because if you added 1 to the objective control for a unit of 20, it would be 30 OC for Poxwalkers. I have a feeling like they're doing all this stuff because they're going to be lowering the maximum size, and that would make sense. If not, I mean, this is fantastic. I mean, a 20-man brick of Poxwalkers with 30 OC on an objective, like, good luck removing it. Plus, you have the Noxious Blightbringer there. You can. There's probably going to be some cool enhancements that you can give them. Maybe you keep those Poxwalkers alive longer. Like, this is a really decent enhancement, and I think it might actually get the Noxious Blightbringer off my shelf for the first time in 3 editions. Next, we have the Shambling Wall. In our opponent's shooting phase, one Death Guard unit that was selected as the target of 1 or more attacks and has 1 friendly Poxwalker unit visible to both us and the attacking unit. So, a lot's going on there. So, in our opponent's shooting phase, if a unit that we have right next to Poxwalkers that is visible to the unit shooting at our Death Guard unit, we can use this stratagem. And essentially what it says here is that we can take the wounds onto the Poxwalker unit. Now, the first thing I saw when I saw this is, wow, they just gave Mortarion 20 more wounds, because you can have, a 20-man unit of Poxwalkers there, and then start taking the wounds on the Poxwalkers instead of taking them on Mortarion. Like, that is insane. But I'm going to reiterate one more time. This, too, also makes me believe that they're lowering the max size of Poxwalkers to 10. Because could you imagine giving basically 20 more wounds to any Death Guard unit out there? The 10-man unit seems a little bit more reasonable. And I think, again, everything I'm reading here is screaming this change to Poxwalkers, but maybe I'll be wrong. If I am wrong and Poxwalkers stay at units of 20, this is almost a broken stratagem. I mean, yes, you have to have the unit within 3 of Poxwalkers, so having Mortarion move 4 inches along with your Poxwalkers may not necessarily be the greatest strategy, but it's only within. It's not wholly within. So, if we just get that last Poxwalker within 3 inches of Mortarion, we can start, wasting away that Poxwalker unit to keep Mortarion alive. So, definitely going to be like a skill-based stratagem, but man, like, this could be really, really tough to chew through for a lot of units in Death Guard. Other than that, we kind of just got the names of a couple more detachments here. The old Plague Company is going to be changed to the Virulent Vectorum. There's going to be a Champion's Contagion where apparently you can change your Plague, the Plague Contagion every battle round. That could be cool, although there's very few armies that you're going to play out there where switching between -1 to hit and -1 to your saves is going to be super effective. Although, you know, there's definitely places situationally where that could be really good. So that could be a cool detachment. The Taliban Summoner is essentially going to be the Nurgle Demon detachment. And then, of course, we have the Death Lord's Chosen, which is kind of a Terminator company, which is really cool, along with Flyblown Host. I'm really excited about this new codex that is coming out. We don't know when it's going to be released quite yet. Hoping that somebody spoils the full codex here soon, and when they do, we will have another video going over all the changes and all the good stuff. But so far so good. I'm really liking it. I think the change to the army role is really fantastic. Some of these detachments seem to be really cool, and I'm excited to see what they come out with. So go ahead and like the video if you haven't already, and please go ahead and subscribe. We're getting close to 1,000 subs. I really want to thank everybody for watching, and please come on back for more Wounded on Sixes.